I'm Sister Francine Maas. I am an American, and I am very happy to be a missionary sister of Our Lady of Africa. My vocation starts a long time ago when I was in the beginning of my years of secondary school. I happened to be very active in the scouting, and one time I was in a summer camp. We were singing around the campfire, and we were singing the song Jacob's Ladder. I had sung the song many, many times, but that night I was struck by the song, especially the verse that says, "If you love him, why not serve him?" Now that question kept coming back to me. Why not serve him? Francine, why not serve him? Surely I knew that there were many ways to serve him, but what struck me was, why not serve him as a missionary? So I had heard the call, Francine, why not serve me? I always understood this as a call to be a missionary. In fact, I never reflected at all on another type of religious life. For me, it was always missionary. Although I had good experiences with the sisters that I went to school with, primary school and high school, were both Catholic schools. I was taught by sisters. But I felt right away, I want to be a missionary. So what did I do? Well, I did talk to one of the sisters at the school and to get information about different congregations. So she gave me a book. It must have had about 1,000 pages in it. It was all about different congregations. So I looked through that and I chose 3. Now one of those 3 congregations happened to have a link with my Girl Scout troop, because there was a missionary sister of Our Lady of Africa who 10 years prior had been herself in the same Girl Scout troop number 1 of Chicago. And at the time, she was working with a girl guide group in Tanzania, Sumbawanga, Tanzania. And we had relations as scout troops. We would sing our songs and send a tape to them along with a letter, and they would then listen to the songs, and then they would send their songs back to us. So I wrote to this sister. Her name was Anne. I wrote to Anne and asked her, could she not give me an address of somebody in the United States to contact? So she did that. In addition, I was able to follow 2 different retreats given by a missionary congregation that had a house near to Chicago. And these were special retreats for young women thinking of religious life. So eventually, I wrote to these 3 congregations. Reading through all the information that I got through them, really, I felt drawn mostly and very strongly to the information of the missionary sisters of Our Lady of Africa. Because therein I felt a simplicity, and I also liked very much the international living. The other 2 congregations had also sisters from other nations, but they were mostly Americans, and they also had missions in the United States. I felt very much drawn to go to another people, to leave my own people, and to go to somebody very different who did not know Jesus. Because that was the main core of my vocation. I wanted others who did not know the love of Jesus to experience that same love, to be able to come in contact with it. Now, I cannot say that as I was discerning my vocation, I really felt the love of Jesus, but I definitely knew His love in my life. I was surrounded by a loving family, loving friends and acquaintances. And for me, this was expressions of His love. And so I wanted others to know this same love. Then I also, before entering, as I was discerning my vocation, I also wrote to the congregation. Actually, I was only 16 years old. My parents didn't know I was writing to them. But as the school I went to had sisters, and they had their own candidates in class with us, well, I thought the missionary sisters should also have a secondary school. So I wrote to them and I said, I could go to your secondary school. But then a very nice sister wrote back to me, and she said, well, Francine, we don't have a secondary school, and we feel that you still should finish your schooling, and for a missionary vocation, you need to have a greater maturity, and you need to be 21 years old. Oh, 21. Well, for a 16-year-old, 21 sounded like an eternity. But she said, just continue to be a good scout, give of yourself to others, continue to pray, and if you really have a vocation, you won't lose it, don't worry. So that's what I did. Then, 2 months before I was to be 21, I wrote back and I said, okay, I'm ready, I'm 21, I'm going to be 21. So, imagine from 16 to 21, well, 4.5 years or so had passed by. The sisters had thought that Francine has forgotten us, because I didn't write. But I kept that desire deep in my heart. The Lord kept that desire, that flame of the vocation burning in me. So then I was invited to go visit the community of students that was about 300 miles away from my home. So I did that, and I enjoyed the weekend very much. And then, a bit later, I was also invited to go to visit the Formation House in Erie, Pennsylvania. And so I made the trip there. And just at the time I was there, the superior of the Canadian province was there. So I not only met her, but also the superior of the United States. So it was a very interesting time. So I was very happy to be accepted to enter into my formation at the end of 1966. I was together with 2 other Americans for the postulate, and then 3 Canadians joined us for the novitiate. So we began our novitiate being 6 young women from North America. We were a very lively group, and it was a very good time. So then, after the novitiate, as I didn't have any higher education yet, I had been asked what I would like to study in order to be able to serve. And I had always, as a child, before wanting to be a missionary, actually I wanted to be either a nurse or a certified public accountant. So I asked to study to be a nurse, and this was granted me. And so after getting my nursing degree, I very happily left for Tanzania, East Africa. And over the years, I was privileged to serve in different types of missions in Tanzania. Over 30 years, I worked in Tanzania for 25 years. I would say that the main focus of my mission, and what mission has been to me always, no matter where I was, in Tanzania, in Canada, because I did serve a couple years there, or even here in Rome. For me, the main focus of mission was to bring Jesus Christ to others and to fulfill our call as being initiators. Initiators of His life, His love. In order that others might be able to continue on. And this is a very important aspect of our charism, or the way we live out our charism. We want to enable others to carry on. And I have been very, very happy all over the years to have been able to feel myself missionary, no matter wherever I was, because of this deep call of bringing Jesus to others, which can be done no matter where I am, and this aspect of enabling others. Even in my present mission here in Rome, as General Treasurer, I'm given the chance that I can enable others to do also their work of being managers of our finances in the congregation. We work together, but in that we enable each other. And this is a very positive aspect of how we feel called to do our missioning. Prayer, of course, as a missionary, a religious missionary, prayer also, of course, has a very important role in my life, because without that relationship of Jesus Christ, how could I give Him to others? If He is not with me, how can I transmit Him? How can I give Him to others? How could I witness to Him? And so I really feel the need to spend the time with Him daily in order to allow Him to speak to me. It's not that I hear Him all the time, and far from it, but all the same, He does speak to me in different ways, in and through others, in happenings in my life, in nature, as I go and I reflect, and sometimes I pick up a little stone or a flower as I'm walking along, and there seems to be a message that comes to me. And for me, that message deep within is His voice speaking to me. And it gives me the strength to then to go on and to live for Him, that mission to which He calls me. Now, you might ask, what are your joys? What are your difficulties? There surely have been. Yes, I could say there have been the ups and downs over the years, those 25 years in Africa and all the other years in between, and here in Rome. Things haven't always been smooth. No adult active life is. What I could point out as difficulties and that I have experienced in my missionary life, I would say one difficulty has been languages. Personally, I'm not strong in languages. And so this has been a challenge to me. I wouldn't say it has ever put me down or stopped me from doing anything, but it has definitely been a major challenge in different types of way, because I've had to come to know several different languages in order to be able to converse, to relate to the people this is one point our founder has always been very strong on. You need to learn the language of the local language of the people in order to be able to really touch their heart. So, of course, being a young missionary in Africa, actually I was blessed to be able to follow a Swahili course in Tanzania, and that helped a whole lot. And then in my first mission, I was given the responsibility of working in the government hospital, where of course I had to speak Swahili, but also of teaching health sciences in a domestic science school that we had. And that made me sit down and write out my lessons in Swahili. And that was a real challenge, but also a help to me to be able to speak. And then, as we are a missionary congregation coming from many different countries, we have both French and English as our main languages in the congregation. So I've had to, for different reasons, also learn French and perfect my French for especially my service here in Rome, as I needed so much for my work. And then, of course, Rome is in Italy. So for doing anything in Italy, doing banking, going to the offices, understanding the mail that comes, being able to answer the door, the telephone, Italian is needed. So I've been challenged to learn these different languages, and although they are very beautiful and they're so enriching, I admit that it has been a challenging aspect. Another difficulty that I could share is that as missionaries, we are called to be global people. We're called to be bridges between cultures. And on one side, this is very beautiful. But humanly speaking, it's not always easy. Because in some ways, we're never really totally at home. When we are away from our own culture, whether it be in an African country to which we are called, or somewhere else in the congregation, to Italy here, as I am called now, or to Canada. I was there for a couple of years. You're really not at home. You're in another culture. You are, I've always felt accepted. I cannot say that I was ever rejected for that. But you're never really fully at home. And then also in my own culture, when I go back home, I'm also a bit a fish out of water, because I'm no longer like my brothers and sisters. In a way, I'm happy about this, because I've taken on the coloring of the beautiful colorings of the Tanzanian people that I had the joy of living with. I've taken on the colorings of my sisters coming from various countries of Europe. I've learned the beauties of these and taken on some of the beauties of these different cultures. And so I'm no longer the Francine who left the United States the first time at the end of 1973 to go to Tanzania to mission for the first time. I'm no longer that same person. I've been colored by all the beautiful people and all the experiences that I've had over the years. So I'm no longer like my brothers and sisters. I no longer think as they do. So sometimes we don't always understand each other. And I don't always understand the American people either, because of the changes that have taken place in me. And this leads me to the final difficulty, I would say, that I could share. And that is a point that's really so important today, as I find it very difficult to bring over in a positive way to the people I love in the United States, especially my brothers and sisters, my family, my friends, the positive aspects of the Islam faith and the relations between Christians and Muslims. I must say, yes, the United States has been severely affected by what has happened in history, as have also the Muslims over the years. But to be able to help my people to really be open to the reality of the beauty of Islam and the goodness of so many people who follow the Islam faith, so many Muslims who are good people and who are against the terrorists of today. Well, I have difficulty in helping them to really accept my view. And this is painful for me, because I would like them to think other, to have other ideas. But I can only pray that one day they will be opened as I have had the grace to be opened. Now, my list of joys is much longer. I could go on surely for hours if I would be able just to remember them all like that. I would say probably the basic joy that I've known all over the years is the privilege to be a missionary of Jesus Christ. Privileged to be invited into the home of someone to bring them communion, someone who would not be able to receive the communion if I hadn't gone to them. Privileged to assist a dying person, to reconcile maybe with family members or with friends before his dying. Privileged to see the joy on the faces of the young Christians just after their baptism as adults. They're knowing fully, well, at least to a certain extent, what they have said yes to in becoming a Christian. Privileged to live together all of the good things and the more difficult things of ordinary daily life, living side by side with my fellow Christians, living equally along with them, not being superior in a way, but just sharing Christian life with them. I must say I've had more than once. I've had even Muslim individuals say to me, "Tonight, God will sleep with us because you have visited our home." This faith of this individual just goes beyond me and goes beyond of who I can imagine how I could have such a response like that. That goes along with being the privilege and being responsible for being that missionary who I've been called to be. It is a deep joy and a beautiful challenge as well. Another joy has been to be able to live together and work along with my own sisters, but also the sisters, African sisters of the different congregations that we have had privilege to help to found and form, working as equals side by side with each other, whether it was in an association of religious, or when it was that I was working, preparing the other congregation to take over a bedded dispensary that we were running, and they would soon become in charge of that institution. Just working along with them simply side by side has been a great joy for me in my life. And then especially it was a joy to be able to go back later and to see how they had improved things, and had, when we left it, it was a bedded dispensary, and it had become a health center. So because of the good that they had done, they were serving the people even more so than we could have done when we were there. Another joy would be that of, as I am here now in Rome, the joy of participating fully in the mission of the congregation and preparing the future for our mission, as we are now in a time of real transition, changing of structures, and moving to the future. It's a very challenging time to be a part of the decision-making process, to see, yes, where do we feel we are going, and what decisions have to be made. How can we best continue to serve the mission with who we are and where we are and the numbers of sisters we have. It's just a joy for me, and a challenge. Challenges are always part of the joys and the difficulties. It makes a balance in life, I guess you would say. And so are there other joys that just now I can... Joys of, yes, as from the beginning, as I had said, internationality, the aspect of internationality of our congregation was very interesting to me, and it's one of the reasons I joined the Msola. One of the joys has been I have always been able to live in international communities. Probably the most international is even right here in Rome, as we are 13, 14 in the community right now, and we're almost that many number of nationalities, and so it is a real joy to make a bouquet of these different nationalities and find a real unity amongst us in these differences. So as I now slowly head towards my 50th Jubilee in a few years, I must say I have never regretted that decision that I made as a young 16-year-old to launch into the unknown, to say yes to a desire that I felt deep in my heart, to be a missionary, that others might come to know the love of Jesus as I knew it. I have never been sorry for that decision, and for that I thank the Lord.